What if one single order could change Sonny Corinthos' fate forever? General Hospital spoilers hint that director Ross Cullum may deliver a fatal command that rocks the Corinthos family. Does Sonny Corinthos have another medical emergency ahead? In GH's January 26th episode, Marco Rios worked to convince Cullum that Sonny posed a serious threat to their business. Since Jen Sidwell has been lulled into thinking he's got a grip on Sonny, Marco went behind his back to deal with this situation. But what if Marco's secret move sets off a deadly chain reaction no one can stop? Cullum clearly suspected revenge might be driving Marco, but Marco insisted this was about protecting the project. With that in mind, Marco believes they need to remove Sonny from the equation. What happens if Cullum decides Marco is right? Cullum is the kind of man who's willing to take swift, ruthless action. And that means Sonny could soon be facing a fatal attack on his life. Could this be the moment Sonny's luck finally runs out? Sonny has faced more than his fair share of terrifying situations in recent years, but another disturbing incident could be waiting just around the corner. If Cullum gives the order, Sonny could find himself seriously injured and barely clinging to survival. Although Sonny would likely pull through in the end, the Corinthos family could still be devastated by the emotional fallout. How many times can one family survive the same nightmare? If Sonny has a near-death experience, his loved ones will once again be forced to relive their worst fears. The pain, uncertainty, and heartbreak could hit harder than ever. And if Sonny survives, he won't forget. Assuming he lives to fight back, Cullum could become his newest and most dangerous enemy. Will Sonny turn this attack into a declaration of war? With Jason Morgan's help, Sonny could uncover who's responsible and make it his mission to wipe Cullum off the map. Revenge may quickly become his top priority. Of course, confusion could spread in the meantime. Sidwell or even Marco might become the prime suspects, leaving Sonny unsure of who really ordered the hit. But when the truth finally comes out, who will pay the price? Eventually, Sonny could uncover Cullum's role and begin planning his retaliation. And once Sonny sets his sights on an enemy, he rarely backs down. Sonny has a long history of clashing with powerful villains in Port Charles, and Cullum could be next in line. Is this the beginning of Port Charles's most explosive rivalry yet? It may only be a matter of time before Sonny and Cullum's conflict erupts into full-scale war. General Hospital spoilers say Sonny could be in grave danger, and the coming episodes may change everything for the Corinthos family. What if one quiet character on General Hospital is secretly being set up for something much bigger? General Hospital spoilers claim Suzanne popped onto the scene last year as Diane Miller and Alexis Davis's assistant at their law practice, answering the phone, providing friendly, non-legal counsel to the legal eagles, and whipping up carrot cake are among some of her best qualities. But what if all of this is just the beginning of a much bigger storyline? But there is no real structure around Suzanne's character. Apart from making nice with Sonny Corinthos every time he stops by, it seems that Alexis is Suzanne's only friend. I'm starting to think the writers want it that way for a very important reason. Could Suzanne be quietly preparing to step into someone else's shoes? Diane has been missing in action for months, while Carolyn Hennessy recovers from multiple surgeries after breaking her leg. That being said, Diane's recent return has sparked rumors that she may not be sticking around long-term, and that Suzanne could become her replacement. Sort of. And that possibility could change everything at the law office. The biggest plot hole at GH right now is how many legal battles Sonny, Jason Morgan, Carly Spencer, or Michael Corinthos have to avoid while Diane is essentially unavailable. Finding a replacement for this legal shark is a tall order. So who could possibly fill that massive gap? Sonny isn't going to turn to the likes of Marty Gray after all of his many schemes against Tracy Quartermain and working for Drew Kane. Suzanne is no attorney. Still, that doesn't mean she can't level up to become a good sparring partner and bosom buddy for Alexis. And sometimes, that kind of partnership matters more than legal credentials. Gone since October of last year, Diane only resurfaced earlier this month, and in a wheelchair. Her seated status, combined with looking a bit thinner and reportedly pale, has left some fans wondering if Diane is otherwise unwell. Is this just recovery, or something more concerning?
After so many surprise health scares the last few years,
like John J. York, his on-screen brother, the late Tristan Rogers, and who could forget the late Jacqueline Zeman, all developing cancer. It's not unreasonable that fans get worried any time an actor's appearance changes, or they're gone a long time, and that worry has fans watching every detail closely. I have to admit, I really enjoy Suzanne's character. So, regardless of how often we may or may not see Diane, I hope Suzanne sticks around and becomes a more stable member of the cast, because sometimes the most unexpected characters become the most important ones. For now, it makes sense that Alexis has needed someone to engage in intra-office politics with, and Suzanne might just be the perfect person for that role. What if the person you trust most shows up at your door and you realize you don't know who they really are? Trina is at home, talking to Kai on the phone, when her mother shows up at her door. Portia refuses to be ignored any longer and says that this not talking cannot continue. Trina invites her mother in and finally lashes out, asking how she could cheat on her dad, get pregnant, and not know who the father is. Portia rehashes the whole story of Drew blackmailing her and keeping it a secret from her father, who at the time was busy cozying up to Jordan. Trina refuses to let her mom blame her for cheating on her dad, since cheating on her husband is her M.O. She snarks, "I hope Dr. Gannon knows what he's in for." You think that's messy? Wait until the secret that could destroy everyone hits like a lightning strike. Trina argues that had the truth about Isaiah not come out on the stand, her mother likely never would have told them the truth. Trina yells, "That's who you are. A liar!" Portia swears she would have told the truth about the baby. She's sorry she lied to her now. And when she was younger, all she wanted to do then was give Trina a family. Curtis left her when he found out she was married to Taggart, and she was convinced he wouldn't have stuck around to have a child with her. And just when you think it can't get worse, the storm outside starts matching the storm inside. Trina says they'll never know because of her choices. Portia cries that she did her best and never expected her to be perfect or to make the mistakes she did. But even if Trina did, she'd still love her. At the hospital, Lulu arrives to pick up Rocco from his community service and meets with Nathan, whom she called. She tells him that Charlotte has gone missing and needs his help finding her. Nathan is more than happy to give her a ride to the stables, where Lulu thinks she's gone. Rocco finally shows up, and Lulu says they'll drop him off at the queues, as she doesn't want him home alone if the power goes out. Missing girl, blacked out town, and one bad decision away from a disaster. Carly checks on Valentine in the attic and fills him in on Charlotte taking off. She says Lulu thinks she went to check on her horse, but she believes Charlotte is headed here to see her dad. Valentine worries as the storm worsens. He decides to go search for his daughter, but Carly says he can't do that, as he could get lost looking for her, and she could turn up here while he's out there. Charlotte arrives at the Quartermains, and Danny asks what is going on and why the secrecy. She explains her mom thinks she's going to check on her horse, but she needs to see her dad to warn him that he's put his trust in a backstabbing traitor, because the real danger isn't the weather, it's who's lying in plain sight. Charlotte fills him in on what she overheard Nina and Brennan discussing, and she can't believe she trusted her. She says Nina is one of the few people her dad trusts, so he needs to know she sold him out to Jack. Danny gets them coats and gear so they can trek over to Carly's. He also understands how it feels when someone you care about lets you down, and he'd never do that to her. She smiles and says she knows. Danny's phone pings, and everyone is being warned to shelter in place. The boy says her dad should be safe where he is, so they should sit put. 2 kids, 1 warning, and the worst possible timing. Joss breaks into Windermere and begins looking for the entrance to the catacombs. However, she's startled when she hears a noise and hides. A figure begins placing candlesticks around the place, and when he lights one, Joss can see its Cullum. Joss makes her move and pretends to come in through the front, looking for her Uncle Lucas. She pretends to be surprised to see Cullum, spots the fire he's lit, and runs over to it, saying she got caught sailing in the storm. You ever realize you walked into a trap the second the lights go out? Cullum asks who she is. She explains she's Lucas's niece. He says his name is Matthew, the caretaker, and the power went out, and everyone went to the mainland. Cullum asks what she was doing out in the storm, and she claims she was sailing to meet a friend on Porter Island for a blizzard bash, and it got too bad, and so she ended up here. Cullum brings out some drink and food and offers her a brandy, which she accepts. Gio and Emma are at Anna's place, bundle up, and prepare to head to Drew's to help Tracy. However, the storm is too severe, and there is no way they can drive anywhere, so they shelter together in Anna's apartment. While everyone thinks they're safe, someone is already making moves in the dark. Tracy lets herself into Drew's house, only to find a fire going. Martin surprises her and asks if she's a little overdressed for breaking and entering. Tracy says she didn't break in, as she has a key. Martin knows nobody living here would have given her one and quickly realizes she stole Scout's key. Martin asks why she's here. Tracy explains she's come to retrieve her belongings, starting with the decanter he's holding. They bicker, as usual, and he points out that Drew is a quartermain, so he is entitled to some of these heirlooms. He asks if she has no compassion at all for the man, given his current state. Tracy yells she showed him mercy when she didn't let him bleed to death after being shot, which was more than he did for her son, Ned, whom he left to die from a heart attack. One house, one fire, two enemies, and neither of them is leaving. At Trina's, Portia tells her daughter that she can't take back what she did, but asks if her daughter can love her anyway. Rocco arrives at the Q's, finds the fire going, sees Charlotte's scarf hanging near the fireplace, but Danny and Charlotte are nowhere to be found. That scarf isn't a clue, it's a warning. In her attic, Carly suggests a game of checkers to distract Valentine from worrying about Charlotte. He notes, "Something tells me you cheat." At Windermere, Cullum asks Joss about herself. She says she's a student at PCU, and she's grown up in Port Charles most of her life. What you see is what you get. He finds that hard to believe. If he doesn't believe her, what happens when he decides to test her? At Anna's, Emma and Gio can't get through to Tracy due to the storm knocking out cell signals, and they wonder if Tracy was able to make it to Drew's. They end up snuggling under a blanket on the couch to keep warm. At Drew's, Tracy insists she's taking her things tonight, but Martin says the roads are impassable and she's stuck here. However, he'll let her stay in this warm house instead of sleeping in her car if she asks him nicely. And now, everyone is trapped, together, with the truth closing in. Finally, Nathan and Lulu end up breaking into the closed cafe to seek refuge after Nathan's car had spun out and off the road. What if the man Willow married isn't Drew at all, and the real truth has been hidden in plain sight? General Hospital spoilers and updates suggest that the genuine Drew Kane might make a comeback and expose the fraud who wed Willow Kane. Willow is responsible for her husband's stroke, but what if the man she married isn't actually Drew at all? For quite some time, it has been evident that Drew has been acting in a manner that is completely inconsistent with his true self. That is, until the moment Willow rendered him incapacitated with that syringe, leading to the subsequent stroke crisis. But what if that stroke wasn't the end of the story? What if it was just the beginning of something far darker? Currently, Drew's medical team is not optimistic about his chances of achieving a full recovery, which means that Willow's scheme has seemingly succeeded. With Drew sidelined in this manner, perhaps now is the perfect opportunity to introduce a shocking twist and revitalize this storyline in GH. Ever since Drew began to exhibit such drastically different behavior, fans have been left questioning whether he is indeed the authentic Drew anymore. There's a possibility that an imposter was introduced, particularly since Drew's peculiar behavior began following his release from Pentonville. Could the real Drew have vanished without anyone noticing, replaced by someone with a dangerous agenda? It was during this time that Drew began to spiral out of control, making it quite simple to imagine a scenario where the genuine Drew was abducted and substituted with a sinister doppelganger. Given the dubious dealings surrounding Jen Sidwell and the collaboration with director Ross Cullum, There exists a plausible narrative where a Drew imposter could seamlessly integrate into that storyline. And what if everything we've seen so far was part of a carefully planned deception? Previously, there had been considerable speculation regarding the possibility of clones being involved, which opens up the intriguing idea that a clone of Drew might have tied the knot with Willow. In the unpredictable realm of soap operas, where imposters have a notorious history of causing chaos, anything can happen. Now, Drew is set to be incapacitated and will face significant challenges in communicating for an indeterminate period. But what happens when the truth starts slipping through the cracks? Even if Drew manages to make an astonishing recovery at some point in the future, there is still the possibility for another version of Drew to come back into the scene during this interim period. This situation could lead to inquiries that the imposter Drew would be unable to address, given his current circumstances, thereby compelling the genuine Drew to demonstrate that he is indeed the authentic one. And when that moment comes, will Willow's secret finally be exposed? It's conceivable that the real Drew might find a way to break free from his confinement and reveal some of the laboratory experiments he was subjected to against his will. Regardless of how things unfold, General Hospital spoilers indicate that we can expect to see more unexpected twists involving Drew. What if one unexpected moment could completely change your day and push you past your breaking point? Have you ever been doing something when all of a sudden you find it hard to complete the task? Well, a General Hospital actor recently found himself in such a spot. However, being a soap star, and being put in the predicament, if you will, gave him the extra gumption to keep going, gone. Chris McKenna had been out for a run during the evening of January 27th, when it began to get the best of him. Just when he thought he couldn't take another step, something unbelievable happened. Then it happened. He was given a push to stay strong when a soap fan approached him. Running today and about to crap out a half-mile early, he began, then described how a woman sitting in a nearby parked car suddenly lit up and asked, "Are you on GH?" McKenna confirmed that he in fact was, to which she replied, "I love your character." And in that tiny moment, everything changed for him. After he thanked her, he had to suck it up for the last half mile because she was watching. He kept pushing forward, step by step, even though his body wanted to quit. That small interaction gave him the motivation he didn't know he needed, and it helped him finish the run he had planned. Sometimes, all it takes is one person believing in you. And that little encounter scored the actor a win because he was able to get in the run he had wanted to so. As he later stated, "Thanks, lady." Fans got a kick out of McKenna's motivating story, and many shared how inspired they felt by it. But the story didn't stop there. It inspired thousands more. Cindy Rowe Cartwright said it best. "You'd a man. She was your guardian angel helping you to not give up. Plus, you made her day. And that woman will now have a great story to pass along to her friends. Because of the inspiration she passed along to the actor, we're now passing it along to you, with hopes that you find a little encouragement to make your day better, and to keep going when you feel like giving up. Subscribe.